Morning, everybody. Welcome to today's live stream. Let's record this TradingView idea and get on our way. So, what's new? What's important? All right. Bitcoin is bouncing directly on top of a major support, which we will briefly define before moving on to the 1 hour chart, okay? So our relevant pivot is the 1.25 standard deviation of the 500 period, which I currently have loaded up here. And yeah, while we might be inclined to draw this parabola here, right, manually, let's just do that, right, that curved support line. I wouldn't really bet on it, right, because our real bounce point would actually be around 9,600 if we wanted to form a swing low. And I can guarantee you that on the lower time frames, we do have a small pool of liquidity forming around, well, what was that trend line, although it does appear to be broken. And you can also see the high volume volatility pop to the downside that resulted from that break. So with that in mind, we can still retrace an additional 4.5% and still be defined an upward trend. So as far as our other time frames, or as far as ACAT goes on here on the 1 hour chart, hopefully we'll have a good volatility overhead reading. No, we don't. All right, well, this is a bit of a messy chart. So what we're gonna have to do is look at our previous longest overexpanded period, because in theory that should still be holding price action nicely, since I don't see any new expansions forming here. So we will be able to look at the 80 period using our Bollinger Bands. ACAT isn't showing us much else at this moment. So, yeah, that is containing price action quite nicely. And while price action in theory can move outside this band, it doesn't mean it has to, right? It can be pretty common for price to just stay inside of it in green readings here on the 3D wave PM. It really does imply significant trend will break out, well, as soon as trend does begin. And that leads us to this problem, right? If we have significant support implied to the downside, right here at 9,600, what would it mean if we started a comprehensive net expansion to the downside, right? We would be fighting off a short-term trend with long-term support, and well, that doesn't really inspire a lot of confidence. So instead of actually just placing a buy order down here around the 9,600 range, what I'm actually thinking is waiting for that support level to be hit, not buying in, and waiting for some kind of trend continuation signal, like a bullish mean reversion, right? Because any kind of downward expansion, like we've seen here, will generate relative mean reversion pivots based on its previous overexpansion. So if we were to load up ACAT just so that automatically shows up, right? If we get a significant downward move, and just give it a second while it loads, beautiful. All right, if we get a significant downward move here, well, we're gonna have a really clean defined mean reversion pivot, right? So if we get a downward trend that forms here based on a comprehensive bearish net expansion, all we have to do is wait for the relative mean reversion pivot to form. And if we actually have a bullish cross inside that mean reversion pivot, well, then we can safely take the bullish position, right? Because whenever we enter a state of compression on top of a support value, it does tend to lead to a short-term reversal. And if we're looking for a short-term reversal on a long-term major support, well, then it could very well be a long-term reversal. So that ends up with getting you over a 10-to-1 profit ratio if you play your cards correctly, right? Because if we have a long-term major defined support and we have a bullish mean reversion condition, well, we can set a stop loss just barely on the other side of that condition, like maybe 2 or 3%, and your upside is going to be 27% or more, right? Or if you're expecting an even higher high, well, it's just overall a very safe position. However, because of the anticipated volatility pops to the downside to scoop up liquidity as performed by larger players, it is worth mentioning that when we do get this bearish downward expansion, you should not enter the long position until the relative bullish mean reversion forms, right? So this bullish position that forms here and here is what you're waiting for, right? Or even better, you could wait for the swing low of that position based on its 14 period CCI roll. However, there is still a fair amount of risk involved with taking that kind of position. But far less than actually just placing a static buy order at the support and hoping for the best. So this does require a little bit more macro management, and you will need to wait for the mean reversion condition to activate. But the risk is going to be far smaller than if you were just to enter now, or if you were to enter directly on the support. Right? So wait for the bullish condition to form, and you should be far better off. All right. Next up, we're going to look at FUSD. Really, it doesn't look all that different from the Bitcoin pairing. There's just so much potential energy formed up here that it does leave a lot to be questioned. It's very muddy or overhead, or just the 160 period based here. That mean inversion condition is no longer active, which means trend can again begin in either direction and trend quite significantly from there. As far as our longer term time frames goes, we are still in a significant downtrend based on, say, the daily chart, or at least the apparent beginning of one. And we do have converse expansion as well, which makes things really muddy. I have a bullish bias on Ethereum USD, just based on the previous period of short-term or long-term compression, that we saw at the local bottom, followed by the period of comprehensive net expansion with a positively weighted CCI, which resulted in significant upward trend. So I am inclined not to sell just yet, since I am a long-term holder of Ethereum since around $200 back here. I am inclined just to ride this wave out, right? Because I do see this as a long-term market bottom for both Bitcoin and Ethereum. So I am inclined just to wait this out. Obviously, I'm not using good risk management here because it is a smaller position. I only have a couple of Ethereum. However, if we do eventually retest previous highs, well, I'll be buying myself a nice vacation. So, Ethereum is one of those projects where you can reliably hold if you see this long-term market bottom structure, and just wait it out. Another coin like that is going to be Doge, just because of its heavy cyclical nature. And I'm actually going to look at a different pairing for this coin. We're going to look at Doge BTC on the pull on the next chart. And what you'll notice is the indicators don't really mean anything on this chart, let's be honest. Heavily cyclical price action. Just be aware, if you do intend to try to play this chart, your support ranges are going to be a huge, whopping 50% range. So dollar cost averaging into this bottom is probably your best bet, instead of just trying to buy in all at once, right? Because we are currently at 25 Satoshis. We could retrace all the way down another 50% to 12 Satoshis. So do be really careful on that front. Just be aware that eventually you might go up, 100%, 200%. And, that's another nice vacation for you, right? All right, I'm going to check the YouTube comments, see if you guys want me to look at any charts. And if not, this live stream will be over. Link BTC, I'll be happy to take a look at that for you. Chainlink, oh goodness, what a great daily chart, let's be honest. Link is performing so well simply because of its... I'm actually not going to take any bets on that. This is a true parabola bull run. If you want to try to define the swing low on this, we can do so with quad CCI. Although we're going to have to manually define it. It's not clean. So what we're going to be doing, actually, let's just try the 50, yeah? 50 period CCI rollups. How's that working for us? 1, 2, actually that's good. 50 period seems to be the winner. So we could just do a 50 period Bollinger Band to define the swing high and swing low quite effectively. I'll swap that to the 50 period. Nice. All right. So this is quite a bit of a judgment call, but if you have this 50 period 1.25 standard deviation Bollinger Band rolling up above, you could consider that a buy order, right? Because it has performed rather well recently, so I'll keep an eye on this for sure. I'll just set a small alert. I'll probably have to manually set it for the band itself. So we're gonna have a link crossing up, Bollinger Band Meow Mix, we want it to be lower band 1. That's good. That's it. Create. Beautiful. Check the YouTube comments one last time. Oh, awesome. 1 and Ren. Absolutely. 1 BTC. Harmony. I haven't heard of this one before. Okay. Not as bad as I think it'd be. Huh. That's tempting, but I don't have any metrics to actually define its performance. You just have a lot of potential energy and no defined direction. And I'm sure you can understand why that's a problem. We have significant sell-off with an apparently defined support range, a compressing support range in that. You have this really nice green potential energy, and you have no implied direction. So, if you get any kind of... shoot. That's a tough chart, man. Although, now that I'm realizing something, hold on. No, it's that same compression we're seeing on Bitcoin. So as soon as Bitcoin breaks out, there we go. Yeah, when you get this parallel price action this closely, and you can actually see where natural price divergence happens. Like, you see the selling volume here? Right, that happens divergent from Bitcoin. So, yeah, when you're analyzing a lot of these smaller cap coins, you want to look at the divergence first. And if you're just getting lateral price action like this directly on top of Bitcoin, you might want to wait for the divergence to form, right? Because if Bitcoin continues going sideways, but one breaks out to the upside, right, well, then you have a reason to buy one. Otherwise, you're just better off taking a position in Bitcoin, right? What was the other one? Ren and Dusk. Sure thing. Ren BTC. No, that's an aggressive active downtrend with no price divergence from Bitcoin. I would stay away from this. All right. Sure, you might have volatility pops to the upside, but trend is defined as down. You have no clear wave PM readings. It's just sloppy mess in a downtrend. So stay away. Right? If you have like aggressive downtrend, then at least you can define a bullish mean reversion, because this is a long-term sustained selling. It's really little you can do to actually capture this. And I've never heard of Dusk before. So, I guess I'll just add it to my watch list. Oops. This is interesting. Ooh. That trend's already over. That's too bad. Yeah, I understand the appeal of this. But I would actually want a second leg up before attempting to take it, right? Because you can actually use the slope of probability volatility to define this a bit. And let's just snap this to default settings. Right, and we could attempt it on the 1 hour. Should work. Yeah, you still have no defined direction on this, so I would prefer another leg up and then try to catch that swing level before attempting this. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the comments one last time. Nothing new. That'll be it for today. It has been a pleasure. I'll talk to you all folks tomorrow at 1 p.m. MST. Have a great day.